In 2008, Elon Musk was only days away from bankruptcy. How did he survive the worst moment of his life and become the richest man in the world? To answer this question, we have to go back to the beginning. To 1971, in Pretoria, South Africa, where a child named Elon Musk was born. From a young age, he was different from other children. He would spend hours lost in his own thoughts, so much that his mother thought he had a hearing problem. She took him to doctors, and he even had his adenoids removed. But the surprise was that his hearing was completely normal. He wasn't ignoring the people around him. He was living inside a world of ideas and imagination. As the years passed, he became obsessed with reading. He went through books one after another, especially books about science, technology, and science fiction. But being different was not easy. At school, his classmates didn't see him as a smart or curious kid. They saw him as someone strange and different. Soon he became a target for bullying. One time, a group of students threatened his only friend to lure Elon into an isolated place. Then, something happened that Musk later described as one of the worst days of his childhood. The students pushed him down the stairs. He fell hard, hit the ground, and lost consciousness. But it didn't end there. After he fell, some of them came down and continued attacking him while he couldn't defend himself. The injuries were serious, and he needed a long recovery. The memory of that incident stayed with him for years, but Elon's problems were not only at school. Over the years, his relationship with his father became one of the most complicated relationships in his life. At that time, there was only one thing that controlled his mind: books. He spent hours reading about science, technology, and the future. Those books started shaping the way he saw the world. But as time passed, he no longer wanted to only read about technology. He wanted to create it himself. At just 12 years old, Elon taught himself programming. After months of learning and experimenting, he created a simple video game called Blastar. Then, he sold it to a magazine for $500. For a child who was only 12 years old, it was proof that his ideas could become something real. It was the first time he made money from something he created himself. He didn't know this small step would become the beginning of a journey that would lead him to build billion-dollar companies. But outside the world of books and programming, Elon's life was much harder. As the years passed, his problems with his father increased, and he became convinced that his future would not be in South Africa. At 17 years old, he made a bold decision. He left his country and moved to Canada looking for a new beginning. He didn't have a company, he didn't have a fortune, but he had an ambition much bigger than his age. He didn't know that this journey would become the first step toward building one of the biggest business empires in history. In Canada, there was no easy path for Elon. He worked simple jobs. He cleaned grain storage buildings and cut tree logs with an axe for long hours. All of that was to save money for university. He studied at Queen's University in Canada, then moved to the University of Pennsylvania in the United States. He studied physics and economics at the same time. After graduating, he was accepted into a PhD program at Stanford University, one of the best programs in the world. But he left after only 2 days. Why? Because the internet was starting to change the world, and Elon wanted to be part of that change, not just watch it happen. In 1995, he started his first company, Zip2, a digital guide for cities and services on the internet. 4 years later, he sold it to Compaq for more than $300 million. Elon's share was around $22 million. Instead of relaxing with that money, he used it to start a new company, X.com, an ambitious online bank, later became what we know today as PayPal. In 2002, eBay bought PayPal for $1.5 billion. Elon was the biggest shareholder and received around $180 million. He became a millionaire before turning 31. He could have lived the rest of his life without working another day, but he did the opposite. That same year, he founded SpaceX. The goal? To reduce the cost of space travel and make humanity capable of living on other planets. 2 years later, he became the biggest investor in a small electric car company called Tesla. He had 2 companies and a huge dream, but the world was not ready to believe in him. From 2006 2007, and early 2008, SpaceX failed to launch its first rocket, Falcon 1, 3 times in a row. Every failure cost millions of dollars. He invested almost everything he had into both companies. He even reached a point where he had to sell his last car, a rare McLaren F1, and borrow money to pay his rent. That year, the global financial crisis also happened. Banks stopped giving loans, and investors ran away from risky projects. SpaceX and Tesla were both only weeks away from bankruptcy. In September 2008, SpaceX had one final chance to launch Falcon 1. There was no money left for another attempt. If it failed, the company was finished. The launch succeeded. By the end of that year, SpaceX won a $1.6 billion NASA contract. But Tesla was still close to collapse. On December 24, 2008, Christmas Eve, a funding deal was completed to save the company in the final hours of the day. If it was delayed by only a few hours, Tesla would have officially gone bankrupt. Both companies survived almost in the same week. From that moment, everything started to change. In 2012, Tesla launched the Model S, a car that completely changed how the world viewed electric vehicles. In the same year, SpaceX became the first private company to send a spacecraft to the International Space Station and bring it back safely. The value of both companies grew massively in the following years. In January 2021, Elon Musk's wealth passed Jeff Bezos's, making him officially the richest person in the world. From a child born in Pretoria who faced bullying and isolation, to a man who was only days away from bankruptcy twice in his life. Then he became the richest man on Earth.